Alright, y'all. I've got a material that I really like that I've been working with recently that came off the underside of a child's floor mat. As you can see, it's really reflective. There was like a cloth topper with a little roadway you could play with toy cars on. As you can see on the underside, I have used this previously as a spray mat for baits that I was painting, but I want to draw your attention to this side, the flashy side. Show you some of the applications that I've been using for this. Sometimes with my flies that I tie, I will add a little bit of flash to them, just cutting small strips of this. Other times structures that look more like wings. But in this case, what I'm going to show you is making your own blades for spinner baits. So this has got a swivel up here at the top. It can spin freely, and as you can see, there's a nice red line also. If I can focus on that, on the edge of it, where obviously this underside where I had sprayed red, that was just kind of a happy accident, but it really does accent the bait or the blade nicely. So what I've done is cut out my shape that I want. In this case, matching it with a second piece that with this one I've already tacked down the swivel. In this case, I'm using also a clasp on there, but I'm going to stick the two sides together with just a little bit more super glue, and this is not what I'm going to bond the edges of the bait with. I'm going to use UV resin for that, but just to momentarily tack these two sides together to make it easier to work with. Make sure they're even. If you get in a situation that the super glue is already set up on you, you can always go back through and trim a little bit off. So now I'll go in with my UV resin. It is temporarily attached there, but I want to make sure that this is going to be solid and a permanent connection, and then also make this more rigid. So we're used to using blades that are made of steel, but in this case you've got a foam backing on this reflective material, and you're going to have a different hydrodynamic effect. The foam obviously being buoyant versus your steel blade being something that is going to sink. So always keep a toothpick on hand if you need to reposition any of your resin. Those of you that haven't worked with this before, many brands available for you, but you need to cure this with UV light. So I'm going to start that process. Just move it around constantly so that I end up making sure that all angles have been hit and I achieve my maximum level of hardness out of this resin. So I've seen people do it for shorter lengths of time. This light has an automatic off, which I kind of enjoy because it'll just finish whenever I know that it's hardened. You probably don't need to go for this long, but to make sure that, again, I've really solidified it and make sure that that swivel is not going to come out of there. So we've got one side done. Now I'm going to go back in, put some resin on the other side. Make sure that, again, I'm applying it fairly generously at the top where the swivel is to make sure that that gets locked into place. Alright, so now we'll give it some more light. Now, what I've experimented with also is one of the previous ones I made, I did just the same way as this and left the side of the blade where the reflective material is untouched by resin, and that made it semi-flexible. It's not extremely bendy, but it's not really rigid. If you want it to be more of a rigid blade, more like the steel, then go back in one side at a time with the UV resin and put it onto that reflective material. But this one still got a little bit of bend to it, and as you can see, spins freely. You can easily attach this to any setup. Sometimes you like to arrange a chase bait situation where you've got a large soft plastic and then attach further up the line either with weights or tying it in separately, a little blade to be running, setting up a chase situation. But thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. If you want to see some of my other lures, go to BHI Flies on Instagram. BHI.flies.